What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at the free ride update for Mafia: The Old Country, a title that released back in August, and when I reviewed it back then, much of what I had to say was basically that it was a really good story, and while it wasn't doing anything interesting gameplay-wise, pretty standard action-adventure type stuff really, what was a little puzzling was that they had this really big open world that was filled with essentially just a couple of different types of collectibles, and that was it. You could explore it via one of the game modes, but there just wasn't a lot of reason to do that, and it kind of felt like something had been cut, if I'm being honest. However, shortly after the game's release and everything, they announced that they were going to provide an update that actually fleshed some of that out, made exploration of the valley that you find yourself in more interesting, and that is really the bulk of what this update is all about. However, in addition to that, it does also add a fair bit of other content, an extra difficulty mode, a special sort of filter for some Sicilian authenticity. But all said, let's go ahead and dive into it. So first things first, this is a free update. You don't have to pay for this. This is just being added to the base game. And you do have to play into the game a little bit before this fully unlocks. I believe it's the end of Chapter 2 before it starts. Basically, when you get access to the world normally through the game, you'll now have access to free ride mode. This is going to let you partake in a variety of different challenges, which I'll detail in a moment, different types of races via your horse or car, the game's new photo mode, and all that while unlocking some different options. So probably the main activity is the different types of races alongside the combat challenges that have been added. So for races, you have your horse and your car, and there's a few different types. All in all, like there's a time trial for the car, there's a like just regular old race, and then there's a point-to-point mode, and then the horse races themselves. Doing and completing those both earns you money, but also unlocks potential rewards, which is also the case for the combat challenges, and then you can spend that money on some of the new things that they added, such as the 16 new outfits, new knives, guns, charms, and a couple of new cars even. So, more tools to enjoy the combat with, I suppose. Now, on the combat side of things, they've added two different types of challenges here. One was actually pretty fun, the assassination missions. There's a few missions on the world map now where you can go and effectively sneak into an enemy camp, assassinate a target, and then escape all without being seen, with the catch being that if you can unlock some extra safes while you are at it, you'll earn even more points as you go. Finishing up all of these unlocks a special outfit, and I enjoyed these more than I thought I would. There's also the new standoff missions. These are basically like a survival thing. You're going to fight 4 waves of enemies, increasing in number as you go, and you'll earn points for surviving against them. And if you enjoy what the game does combat-wise, I imagine you would enjoy this, but it's straightforward enough, I suppose. Now, let's say you want to play through the main experience again. Well, they've added the new classic difficulty for that, and you can use classic difficulty in the free ride mode. The regular gameplay settings still apply there, mind you, but classic difficulty in particular increases the difficulty of combat, stealth, and driving. So in terms of combat, enemies will be able to deal more damage to you, that kind of thing, just generally more lethal. Stealth, you'll be more easily detected, and driving will of course be harder. One of the bigger changes though, outside of obvious stuff, is that it actually changes how reloading your weapon works. If you reload a magazine that is not empty, you just lose the bullets that are in that magazine when you reload. So that's something you have to keep an eye on, so you're not wasting ammo unnecessarily. And on top of that, aim assist is completely turned off pretty much, and the heads-up display won't show you specific information at times. This is, I imagine, in response to the fact that the game's hard mode was not terribly difficult. But if on top of that extra difficulty, you also want a slightly more cinematic experience, then the Cinema Siciliano may well be for you. This is basically a brand new graphical setting for the game that introduces two things, a both visual and audio filter. The visual one is designed to make it feel more like authentic cinema from around the time, of course, this would have been made. Now that is especially interesting because it's not just a visual filter, but they do actually apply this to the audio as well. meaning that all of the audio, sound effects, and everything sounds a little more, again, in line with what a movie in that era would have sounded like, which is kind of neat. And I would say is pretty in line with the fact that in some ways the story kind of feels more like a movie anyway, so I think it works out. On top of that, there is the photo mode. Looks pretty standard as far as photo modes go, but if you want to see the sights and make use of all these new filters and stuff and new outfits, that kind of thing, you are certainly going to be able to do so now. And everything else is a little on the smaller side. There's an option in free roam mode to use a sundial to change the time of day if you're looking to explore at a particular time or capture a certain photo, that type of thing. And they also added some extra accessibility options in there as well, like changing the opacity of your reticle, or even like turning off the on-screen damage effects. And everything else seemingly being just some small fixes to just various little problems that have popped up since the game's launch. But by and large, I actually think this is a pretty good update. And while it's not perfect by any means, there's no proper side quests or side content to necessarily do outside of these challenges, which are going to unlock some rewards that you can take into the main story if you want to. But do keep in mind that this still isn't GTA or anything, which means you're not going to be able to murder civilians, that kind of stuff. But for me, honestly, I think all of this probably should have been in the game when it actually released. It kind of seems like some timing was strange there because, clearly this is probably something they had in the chamber given the relatively short turnaround from release to this update. But either way, looks like this game should be in a better place now for people, which is probably good ahead of the Steam Winter Sale and the holidays and everything. So ideally, the people checking it out as part of that will have a better experience, hopefully, with a bit more to do. So that is pretty much going to wrap it up for this particular video. Certainly hope you enjoyed it. If you did, by all means, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube jazz. While I'm hardly a big Mafia content creator, I do try to double back and take a look at these large updates as games get them. And given how this update at the very least addressed a fair bit of criticism that I and many other people had for the game, I wanted to make a mention of this one. But either way, that's where we're going to wrap it up. Certainly hope you enjoyed the video. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.